Most people spend their lives trying to be good, trying to be accepted, trying to fit into a version of spirituality that's been sterilized, simplified, and stripped of its fire. But there's a small group of souls like you who were never called to the easy path. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to burn. You were chosen not because you were perfect, but because you were willing to carry something most can't, the shadow. Not the unconscious kind that hides in shame, but the sacred shadow. The kind that holds ancient wisdom, fierce love, and unapologetic truth. You are one of the rare ones, one of the elite dark chosen. But how do you know? How do you really know this isn't just ego, or a fantasy, or just your own trauma masquerading as a mission? That's where the signs come in, not obvious ones, not signs that come wrapped in angel numbers or glittering visions. These signs are raw. They're disruptive. They don't come to comfort you, they come to initiate you. And most people miss them entirely because they expect God to show up in light. But what if God showed up in your darkness? What if the very things you thought disqualified you were actually your credentials? The first rare sign is that you've always felt like a disruptor. Not because you wanted to cause drama, but because your energy naturally shifts rooms. You walk in, and suddenly the masks people are wearing start to fall off. You speak, and people either wake up or walk away. Your presence alone reveals what's fake, what's shallow, what's performative. And you've probably paid the price for it. Rejection, isolation, being misunderstood. But here's the deeper truth. Your soul carries codes that disturb the illusion. You are not here to be liked. You are here to reveal, to rattle, to awaken. You're not chaos, you're the catalyst. The second sign is that your life hasn't let you stay asleep. Every time you tried to play small, to settle, to numb out, something would break. A job would end. A relationship would implode. Your body would crash. Your mental health would scream. It's as if the universe has been forcing you to wake up over and over, no matter how much it hurts. That's not a punishment. That's a divine urgency. Dark chosen ones don't get to coast through life. You're being refined by fire because you're meant to carry fire. You're not allowed to live in illusion because your mission is to shatter it. The third sign is that you've always felt a strange pull toward darkness, not evil, but depth. You're not satisfied with surface level anything. You crave meaning, truth, reality. You've been drawn to the occult, to ancient knowledge, to forbidden wisdom. You've explored your own shadows with brutal honesty. You've asked questions most people are afraid to even think. And it's not because you're dark, it's because you're brave. Because you know that real light is born in the dark. You don't fear the underworld. You walk through it. And every time you return, you bring back medicine for others who are still lost in it. The fourth sign is that your intuition is painfully strong. I say painfully because it doesn't just guide you, it haunts you. You know things before they happen. You feel people's true intentions, even when they're smiling. You sense energy shifts, the unspoken, the invisible currents underneath everything. And this gift has often made you question your sanity, because no one else seems to see what you see. But you're not crazy. You're tuned in to a frequency most people have forgotten how to hear. That's why you can't lie to yourself for long. That's why relationships that aren't aligned feel unbearable. Your soul demands truth like it's oxygen. The fifth sign is that you've been through deep initiations not by choice but by force. The kind of pain that cracks you open. The kind of betrayals that kill every illusion. The kind of loss that leaves you reborn. And each time you come back different, sharper, clearer, more sovereign. You've died 1,000 ego deaths, and yet you're still here, still rising, because something in you refuses to quit. That's not just resilience. That's remembrance. Your soul remembers what you came for. And every time the world tries to take you out, your spirit doubles down. Because you know even if you can't explain it, that your mission isn't complete. The sixth sign is that you felt the presence of something bigger guiding you, not all the time, but in the moments that mattered most. A voice, a knowing, a synchronicity so precise it stopped you in your tracks. A dream that felt more real than waking life. A moment of stillness where everything suddenly made sense. These weren't accidents. They were activations, reminders, breadcrumbs from your higher self or God saying, keep going. You're not alone. Dark, chosen ones don't walk with crowds. But we are never truly walking alone. The path is lonely, yes, but it's also orchestrated. Every lesson, every detour, every delay. It's all been part of your training. And the seventh and rarest sign is that you've started to see yourself differently. Not as broken, not as cursed, but as crafted. You've started to honor your scars, to stop hiding your truth, to own your energy even when it's intimidating to others. You've realized that you don't need to be more like you, just need to be more real. And in doing so, you've begun to tap into a kind of power that feels ancient, unshakable, sacred. That's when you know. That's when it clicks. You weren't sent here to be saved. You were sent here to be a force of remembrance. You are not just chosen. You are elite. So now I ask you, what if everything you thought disqualified you was actually the evidence of your selection? What if the pain, the patterns, the path, it was all proof? What if you've been walking through a divine initiation disguised as a disaster?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
If you're still here, it's because something inside you knows this isn't just content, this is confirmation. You're not watching this by accident. You're not hearing these words randomly. You were summoned. Because there's a war happening, not with guns or politics, but with perception. A war for the soul of humanity. And the battlefield? It's not out there, it's inside. Inside the minds of people addicted to illusion. Inside the hearts of those numbed by comfort, distracted by noise, and sedated by false light. This is the hidden war. And if you're one of God's most elite, dark, chosen ones, then you weren't just born into it, you were born for it. We are the ones who carry the frequency of disruption. The ones who were designed to be incompatible with lies. We don't blend in because we aren't supposed to. We aren't here to maintain peace, we're here to create truth. And that truth, when it lands, destroys illusions. That's why people react to us. That's why we've been misunderstood, rejected, projected onto, feared. Because our very existence threatens the carefully constructed illusions that people cling to for safety. We walk into a room, and the masks start to tremble, not because we say anything but because we are something. Something on sea. Something untamed, something that remembers a world before the lie. Do you feel it? Have you noticed how people confess their secrets around you without knowing why? Or how you can't tolerate fake energy, shallow conversations, or spiritual performance? That's not judgment. That's discernment. That's a divine defense system built into your soul. You're not here to be nice. You're here to be true. And truth is not always pleasant. It doesn't always feel good, but it always sets free. And that's what you are, a liberator. Not with chains and keys, but with frequencies and presence. With unapologetic honesty. With vision that cuts through deception like fire through fog. But here's the real secret. The war isn't just external, it's internal. It's inside you too. That's why this path is so brutal. Because before you can dismantle illusions in the world, you have to dismantle them in yourself. And that's what makes us so dangerous to the enemy. We are willing to lose everything to find the truth. We are willing to face our own shadows, confront our own ego, burn our own false identities to the ground. Do you know how rare that is? Most people will do anything to avoid themselves, but not us. We go there. We go into the dark. And we come back with clarity. This is what makes us elite. Not power, not popularity, but purity. Not the fake kind that pretends to be sinless, but the real kind, the kind that's been through hell and still chose love. The kind that's been betrayed and still chose integrity. The kind that's been tempted by comfort and still chose mission. That's the kind of soul God trusts with power. Because we've proven we won't use it to dominate, we'll use it to awaken. We won't use it to manipulate, we'll use it to liberate. That's why every attack on your life has been so precise, so strategic. The enemy isn't threatened by your personality. He's terrified of your purpose. And now the war is escalating. The illusions are getting louder. The distractions more seductive. The false light more blinding. And in the midst of it, here you are remembering who you are. Feeling the call. Waking up in a world that's still asleep. You're not crazy. You're early. You were designed to activate before the masses, so you could hold the line, so you could anchor the truth, so you could be a lighthouse in the middle of the storm that's coming. But here's where it gets real. Being elite means sacrifice. It means you don't get to be normal. You don't get to numb out like others. You don't get to avoid your calling without consequences. God will not let you rest in mediocrity. Every time you try to shrink, something will shake. Every time you try to hide, something will hunt you. Why? Because you know too much. Because your soul signed a contract long before this life that said, use me. And that contract is active. Whether you like it or not, the moment you start to drift from your purpose, the fire gets hotter. That's not punishment. That's alignment. That's the divine pulling you back, even if it has to break you to do it. So I ask you, with every fiber of your being, are you willing to be used? Are you willing to be the sword and the salve? The storm and the stillness? Are you willing to be seen, not as perfect, but as true? Because when an elite dark chosen one fully remembers, the game changes. You stop chasing validation. You stop fearing rejection. You stop asking for permission to exist. You start radiating. You start commanding. You become the kind of presence that shifts timelines just by walking into a room. And that, right there, is why you're dangerous. Because you don't just carry light, you carry truth. And truth is the one thing illusion can't survive. There's a moment that every elite dark chosen one reaches, a moment where the weight of the path becomes unbearable. We look around and wonder why it feels like we're being punished for something we never asked for. Why we carry more than our share. Why we feel everything so deeply. Why we're always the ones holding space, picking up the pieces, or walking away from things we once loved because our soul simply won't let us settle. And this is where the sacred burden begins to reveal itself. It's not just the heaviness of the mission. It's the loneliness of it, the isolation, the spiritual fatigue that comes from carrying a light so ancient and so intense that even those closest to us can't understand it. You see, the burden isn't just external, it's internal. It's the voice that whispers, you're different, even when you try to convince yourself you're not. It's the feeling of being out of place in every room. It's waking up with a weight on your chest that doesn't belong to you but to the collective. It's knowing things you never wanted to know, feeling things others don't even notice, and constantly being asked to rise higher when you haven't even caught your breath. That's what being chosen feels like. And until you understand that this burden is sacred, it will always feel like a curse. But here's the shift. Here's the moment where your power begins to awaken. When you stop resisting the flame and start becoming it. When you stop wishing the path was easier and decide to become stronger. When you stop asking, why me? And start declaring, of course me. That's when the game changes. That's when the burden becomes a blessing. Because that flame inside you, the one that's burned you, broken you, refined you, it's not here to destroy you. It's here to forge you. You are not being punished. You are being prepared. Prepared for what? To hold more light than most can handle. To speak truths that others can't even hear. To walk through fire and not lose your voice. To carry wisdom that was earned, not taught. That's what the flame is doing. It's burning away every lie you've believed about who you are. Every identity you built to survive. every limitation that kept you small. And yes, it hurts. Yes, it's lonely, but it's necessary. Because the version of you that's being born through this fire, that version is immortal. That version is untouchable. That version is the one that came to change everything. But here's the paradox: the more powerful you become, the more humble you must be. Because when you carry this kind of flame, it's easy to fall into ego, to think you're better, to think you're above. But that's not the way. The flame chooses the ones who are willing to serve, not the ones who want to shine. It chooses the ones who are ready to die to themselves, over and over, so they can become vessels of something far greater. That's what makes you elite. Not your gifts, not your charisma, but your capacity to surrender. Can you surrender to the fire even when it burns away everything you thought you needed? Can you trust the process even when it feels like you're losing everything? Can you hold space for others even when no one is holding space for you? That's the level of mastery this path demands. And that's why so few walk it. But you're still here. You're listening. You're receiving. And that tells me something: the flame hasn't consumed you. It's awakening you. So now the question becomes, what will you do with it? Will you keep hiding? Will you keep trying to explain your path to people who were never meant to understand it? Or will you own it? Will you finally stop waiting for permission and start becoming the answer you've been looking for? Because the truth is, nobody is coming to save you. Because you weren't meant to be saved. You were meant to become the savior. Not in an egoic way, but in an embodied way. In a way that says, I've been through the fire and now I carry the flame. This is the sacred burden. It's not easy. It's not glamorous, but it's holy. And once you master the flame within, once you stop fearing it and start fusing with it, you realize something profound. The fire isn't outside you. It is you. You are the weapon. You are the light. You are the disruption. You are the remembrance. Now that you've walked through the fire, now that you know your burden is sacred and your pain was never pointless, what's next? What are you really here to do? Because chosen ones don't just awaken for themselves. There comes a moment where the fire you've mastered must become a torch for others. And that's when you realize something staggering. You are not just a survivor, not just a guide, you are an architect. One of the few souls sent here to rebuild the spiritual blueprint of humanity. Not based on fear, hierarchy, or illusion, but on frequency, embodiment, and truth. We've been living inside a broken system. Spiritually, energetically, culturally. For centuries, humanity has been operating on a design that rewards performance over presence, obedience over awareness, image over essence. We've been taught to follow hollow rituals, to worship distant gods, to suppress our inner knowing. But the old architecture is crumbling. The temples built on control are collapsing. The leaders who preach with no embodiment are being exposed. And in the ruins of all this decay we rise, not to fix what's broken, but to replace it entirely, to remember what was once lost, to restore the original design. You may not realize it yet, but everything you've survived was preparing you to build. Your intuition, your vision, your resilience, they aren't random traits. They are the exact tools needed to anchor a new frequency on this planet. One that doesn't just talk about love, but embodies it. One that doesn't just point to heaven, but brings it here. That's what it means to be an architect of awakening. You are laying energetic foundations with your thoughts, your choices, your presence. Every time you choose truth over convenience, alignment over approval, sovereignty over submission, you are rebuilding the grid. And no, it doesn't look like a temple made of stone. It looks like a conversation that breaks generational trauma wide open. It looks like leaving a toxic job even when it terrifies you. It looks like raising your children with consciousness instead of control. It looks like starting a business that honors your soul instead of your ego. It looks like healing yourself so deeply that your presence alone becomes a catalyst for others. That is sacred architecture. That is the real work, and it's why you're still here. But don't be fooled. The system will fight back. Illusion doesn't go quietly. As you rise, you will trigger those still committed to their own slumber. You will be misunderstood not just by strangers, but by those closest to you. You will lose things, people, opportunities, comfort. But in that loss, something greater will emerge: clarity. Each time you let go of what no longer fits, you create space for what's truly yours. And that space is fertile ground for the new world you came to build. So how do we move forward? Not by preaching, not by convincing, but by becoming. We live it. We breathe it. We are it. The new template isn't something we teach, it's something we transmit. Through our vibration, through our embodiment, through our refusal to settle for anything less than truth. That's the frequency that rebuilds Eden. Not in some far-off dimension, but here, now, through us. And maybe the most powerful truth of all is this: you were never alone. We were scattered across time, across cultures, across lifetimes, but we're reuniting now. The architects are returning. The dark chosen ones are remembering each other. You've probably felt it, those instant connections, those unexplainable recognitions, those moments where your soul whispers, "I know you." That's not nostalgia. That's activation. We are finding each other again because it's time. Time to build what couldn't exist before. Time to speak what was once forbidden. Time to create beyond the limits of the old world. You're not just healing. You're not just awakening. You are constructing the future one frequency at a time. And this time, we don't build temples to worship gods. We become temples that embody God. So I leave you with this: if the old world no longer fits you, it's because you didn't come here to fit. You came here to found, and the blueprint is already within you. Not written in books, but etched into your soul. All that's left is to remember and begin. Now go, build, burn, be.